Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Echelon Cycling Podcast, where we discuss what's been happening in the world of professional cycling and also with an eye to the week ahead because Strade Bianche is coming up, I guess. And as always, I'm joined by Patrick Blake of Audi Cycling and Mr. Krieger himself, Ewan Wilson. And I mean, guys, a lot on the program. Omloop has Nürnberg, ahead Köln, Gran Camino, UAE Tour, Tour Rwanda, and a few other stories and a few other one-day races as well. But yeah, Gran Camino, both of you are huge fans. Started a bit how it finished, affected by adverse weather. And yeah, what did you guys think of it?
Well, to kick things off, let me get my picture of the Pope. This is, of course, the Catholic race. For all of us,
sad story that you brought up with Peter Sagan, considering we're going to talk about that later. But yeah, sorry.
The Pope can help him and bless him with his cardiac problems. We'll get to that. But the Gran Camino it follows the pilgrimage route of the Camino de Santiago, which crosses all the way through northern Spain, begins in Lourdes in France, where we go usually on the Tour de France. But with that aside, theology put to bed for the moment. This week it had biblical weather conditions. The individual time trial on day one did not count to the GC, but we saw Josh Tarling rip the field to shreds. He took the stage win ahead of Darren Rafferty of EF Education first and second place, with Will Barta in top 5 as well. The next day, we resumed proper racing, you could say, with Jonas Vingegaard taking the win, Egan Bernal following with him for a while, and Jefferson Cepeda in third place. Stage 3, once again, Vingegaard took the win. It was a good week of racing for Vingegaard, and that continued into the final stage of racing, where we had a muted final stage. We're supposed to have 2 passages through the Monte Aloia National Park, but there was only one in the end. But Vingegaard still won that in the pouring rain ahead of Lenny Martinez in second place. Overall, after a week of racing, 4 days of racing, Vingegaard took the overall win with 3 stage victories to his name. Lenny Martinez finished in second place for Groupama Française des Jeux, and Egan Bernal he gave glimpses of his former self, finishing in third place. This marks, I believe, his first stage race podium since his back problems in 2021 screwed up his career, you'd say. Well, actually, that big crash at the beginning of 2022, that's probably a better place to put a comma or semicolon into his career. Jefferson Cepeda finished in 4th place. He now rides for Cal Rual, with Keen Oudebrooks in 5th, Hugh Carthy in 6th, Quentin Pache, fantastic ride for him in 7th, Ruben Guerrero in 8th, 9th for Raul Garcia Valquer BMB, and 10th for Matteo Fabro, who now rides for Polti Cometa. Interestingly, outside of top 10 in 11th place was Richard Carapaz of EF Education first. So, much like last year, Vingegaard led from start to finish, took many wins along the way. Good. Well, actually, this is his first race of the year, so there's no better way to start.
I guess I didn't expect Jonas to be this dominant, which sounds a bit weird to say now that I've just said it, but I didn't think that he'd win every stage. I definitely thought that he'd win like 2 or 3. But yeah, I think that stage 3 was a little bit of a surprise because I think he just went solo. So that was pretty incredible. But yeah, Tarling was just so dominant in that TT. I kind of wanted to touch on that just for a little bit because there was a bit of controversy about the time gaps, obviously not counting towards GC. What do you guys make of that? I've seen 2 conflicting opinions of, at least the stage wasn't cancelled, we at least got racing but it didn't count, versus if it's good enough to race bikes in, should the time gaps just be taken anyway?
We do constantly complain that they're not taking enough precautions for the riders and the racing. Last year's Vuelta time trial, I know that was different because it was dark, but the bad weather conditions, that stage should have been neutralized. I think they probably did the best thing here, because if something did go wrong, it would have reflected badly. And based on the information they had at the beginning of the day, it didn't look great in terms of the weather. It got better towards the end of the stage. So, thankfully the weather was okay enough that no one got hurt. But it is a bit of a downer that this race had its ITT removed. But for Tarling as well, European champion, the question now lies, who's really going to be beating Tarling in the next couple of years? Pippo Ganna, his own teammate, looks to be the strongest time trialist in the world. I know he's not the world champion. We also have Remco Evenepoel and Wout van Aert as well from the Belgian pack. But it's looking like Josh Tarling is the real deal. He wasn't just a one-season wonder.
Yeah, he's literally like the guy, isn't he? Like he's going to
what 19? You've already might be washed.
No, but like in terms of like sometimes we do get riders who have like sort of one-season wonders where they hit the ground running, and he might have had just incredible form last year and it never really matches up again. The stars aligned for him, but the beginning of this year looking like he is in good form. But we can't read too much from a time trial that was essentially neutralized. But the fact that he was willing to race it, I think, showed that he has real panache and really wanted to take the stage win. Also, bear in mind, last year he didn't quite have the optimized setup. This year he definitely does, so that's probably only going to make him faster. I have good feelings about him, even though I was very, very pragmatic last year to say that he was the real deal. I'm starting to believe and jump on this hype train.
Did you see the final climb? That really pissed me off. It's a cobbled climb, and they had like a smooth line that all the riders went on. So it's like, what's the point then? It's not. Yeah, push the fence closer. Get rid of that smoothness. It's a bit like when we look at Tour of Flanders where they all ride on the side, or like Paris-Bay. Like, you need to ride on the cobbles, or like, who cares?
Tarling should do TTs on a road bike, and everyone else should do them on TT bikes. I think that would even things out a little bit. I think just for the sake of, fair play, I think Tarling's just like OP, and he needs a bit of a nerf. So I think he should just be limited to road bikes from now on.
I mean, you've got to feel sorry for, like you said, for the organizers. Like,
yeah,
that was a dilemma. Yeah, obviously they didn't want that to reflect bad on them, and then like bad weather throughout the other days, and then the final day just absolutely unfortunate with shortening it and no race pictures. Like, the only thing was like the last 20 seconds, I think, of racing from the finish line.
Yeah. Also, bear in mind, last year there was a snowstorm in one of the stages, and they took the sort of the measures to say, like, we're not descending to the finish, we're sort of neutralizing the stage. I think that was a good decision. Then it is a problem, like, this is a rainy part of Spain, and we're at the end of February. Like, they're sort of restricted in those sort of to what God permits us, which is a great metaphor given the religious connotations of this race. But probably a little bit annoyed that some of the stars didn't quite rise to the top, because they had a really good start list this year. But I think overall they can be pretty happy with the progress they're making. They still have another Tour de France champion take the win, and there are eyes on this race because it is Vingegaard's first race of the year. So it can't be too beat up about it. And I think that Egan Bernal story as well, with him sort of bouncing back almost, not to his top form, but definitely showing signs that he's coming back, was really promising.
Yeah, that stage 2 where Bernal was like hanging on to Jonas was just like instigating so much just like love on like just like the cycling sphere. It was great to see. So yeah, I think we were all just really happy to see Bernal just like back to a good level, and finishing on the podium and like like Ewan said, like a decent level of GC contenders were here. I think he can take some good comfort from this. And I know at the beginning of the season we were talking about he's going to the Vuelta, and it was all like, I was being quite pessimistic, I think. But I think there's definitely hope now. I think there's cause to be optimistic for Bernal for the rest of the season, which is great. I'm really happy to say that.
Oh, we got a clip here.
And also looking to ride the Vuelta this year, as well as Lenny Martinez, who had a fantastic week of racing as well. Really intrigued to see what he can bring. He won the overall youth classification at this race. He also won the Classic VAR not too long ago. Sorry to be his Harland Johannesson, but I'm really intrigued to see what Martinez can bring. He's just 20 years of age, born in 2003. Gosh, he's looking like a real sort of shout for France as well. We always are looking for a new French talent in the GC, and it looks like Martinez looks like the brightest star at the moment. Lenny Martinez looks really like he is a star in the making.
In terms of Bernal, would you send him to the Tour now, or is it too soon?
Nah, I think let's just, baby steps. I think, obviously I was going to say Gran Camino doesn't lead to Tour de France victories, but Jonas has done it, so that doesn't really hold up too much. I just think, a Vuelta's fine. We'll see him at I don't know, a Basque country would be a really good place to see him, I think.
His program is Strade Bianche, Vuelta a Catalunya, a Basque country, Tour de Romandy of all places, and the Vuelta a España. So very Spanish.
That's all right. Yeah. Romandy crazy season. That is going Bernal's way.
But I also think as well, Strade Bianche could be fruitful for him. He's done well there in the past. He proved he can ride gravel well at 2021 Strade Bianche and at the Giro in that stage into Montalcino. So I'm somewhat optimistic about Bernal. But I think as well this year is probably not the year to send him to the Tour de France because it's such a stacked start list. They already have Charlie Rogers, Carlos Rodriguez going there as well. And for the Giro, they have Garrett Thomas. So I think maybe the Vuelta is a chance maybe for him to try to stand out, particularly if Rodriguez and Thomas aren't going, which we don't believe they are.
No, but what if everyone else goes? Then you've got a stacked Vuelta like we normally have. Wouldn't it be better to send him to the Giro? Or are you thinking of the time trialing?
Good argument.
I'm thinking, well, he's fine at time trialing. I think he's mid-pack time trialist. Do you disagree?
I think, well, yeah. He's no Poggi or Jonas, but, is he...
He's not a Quintana.
Exactly.
True.
Is he just like equal to a Lenny Martinez? I mean, Lenny even actually did a decent TT. So yeah, he's just pretty mid. I love that turn.
And I think as well, like that is the problem that Bernal's going to face with this paradigm shift that we're seeing is that a lot of these Galacticos are incredibly good at time trialing. Roglic, Poggi, Vingegaard, Evenepoel are all top 10 time trialists in the world. Bernal isn't there. So I think it's just going to be hard for him to really stand out against these guys. And I think you saw as well when we were in the mountains at Gran Camino that Vingegaard still has that kick on him and can beat him in the climbs. Maybe Vingegaard's in better form than Bernal, but neither of them are really targeting this race. They have bigger goals deep down the line. If anything, I would say that...
Yes, Vingegaard was. He's like Gran Camino, target number 1, everything else number 2.
Well, he's already won 2 Tours de France. He used to win 2 Gran Caminos, It's just what heroes make their name.
I mean, at the Gran Camino, like the one he did last year, this year, Josh Tarling winning that one stage. He's won 6 out of the 7 stages he's taken part in Gran Camino. Like, what other rider has had that statistic in these short races? Toro Slovenia, Tadej Pogačar doesn't even have that.
Yeah, and I think like Gran Camino as well, They do keep offering these very ambitious mountain stages and hilly stages. And I think Vingegaard's also showing that he's more versatile than we maybe would have thought a couple of years back. And we saw that last year as well at the Basque Country and the Dauphiné. Here as well, Gran Camino, once again, he showed that he's more than just sort of a guy who can time trial well and climb well. He has that sort of hilly stage race reading, which I think is something that Poggi really has. Vingegaard's rising to that challenge because that could be somewhere where Vingegaard could lose time to Poggi in the Tour de France, but if Vingegaard matches that sort of that level, then I think he could be, unstoppable.
Jumping the questions. We did that last year with Tadej Pogačar. Yeah, it's already been a year since that video. Well, I don't think quite a year, but is Jonas Vingegaard a complete rider in your opinion? We saw him descending well. We saw him climbing well. The hills as well, the time trialing. Well, we didn't see the time trialing. He was 2 minutes down on Josh Tarling because he was taking it quite easy. But in terms of, a completeness of a GC rider, well, we spoke about Tadej Pogačar saying that he's probably the most complete rider of his generation. But this Vingegaard, what do you think?
He's close. I think he is really close. I'd say last year I'd be like no, but I think it's just. Like you were saying, it's just his ability over shorter, kind of punchy terrain. I do think that Poggi still has the edge on that, and that just comes from, I think, Poggi's greater participation in one-day races. Personally, I think that's really what comes from, the racecraft and the reading of the race. If I was to leave both of these guys without a domestique, with no team protection, I would still favour Poggi to do better, because I think that he just has that racecraft from the one-day races, because Jonas just doesn't do as many. But saying that, I think that Jonas showed in this race some real good kind of punchy terrain prowess. I would love to see Jonas at Liege. I really would. But he just doesn't get sent there. It just annoys the hell out of me. I do think that Jonas is very close to being a complete rider as a GC contender. Obviously, I'm not expecting him to start riding Roubaix.
I think it really depends what we set our parameters to for complete rider, because like in terms of complete rider across the calendar, Poggi's number 1. But in terms of a complete rider for a Grand Tour setting, Vingegaard's number 1. Because, how often a Grand Tour race is raced like classics. Not that often. We can have classic style profiles in a Tour de France. They're not necessarily going to be raced like a Liege, Bastogne, Liege. So I think in terms of that Grand Tour setting, Vingegaard is probably number one. And it is also difficult as well because we have 4 incredibly complete riders at the top of their game right now. We are spoiled for choice with Poggi, Roglic, Evenepoel, and Vingegaard. They're all incredibly good riders. 3 of those 4 have monument victories to their name. If we look back at the sort of 4 great Grand Tour riders of the 2010s in Nibali, Froome, Quintana, and Contador, Nibali was the only one who won monuments. And Quintana's a bit of a sort of meh time trialist, even though he won a Monte Grappa time trial, a mountain time trial, the Giro in 2014. Doesn't quite count. But I think just he is an incredibly complete rider. I think he is the best Grand Tour rider at the moment. If complete Grand Tour rider at the moment. That's what you're fishing for. But I'm not quite so sure he'd win a Liège comfortably like a Poggi.
No, definitely not.
I just think that, well, you say like Grand Tour stages might not be raced like Liège, but I do think like there are some stages, like maybe like the first couple of stages of the Tour this year are very one-day race-esque. And I would still favour Poggi over that. But I do think when you get to like high mountains, Jonas is still the guy to beat for sure. So I think I agree with you. And as a Grand Tour, like if I'm putting somebody into a Grand Tour, but Poggi for me, just edges it ever so slightly, just because he's got a slightly better sprint. And I think he's just reads a race a bit better.
I agree. But then also looking at sort of 2023, last year's Tour de France started with stages that looked like sort of one-day races. Poggi did gain some more time there, but it was like a negligible amount that meant nothing really in the mountains. I think that is also the difference here, is that these classic style profiles in a Grand Tour setting just make smaller gaps than they would in a classic, you know? And with Jonas's team around him as well, I just think that they support him, they'll limit the losses, and then eat it back in the mountains.
Yeah, that's true. Because Jonas was perfectly capable of following Poggi in all of those attacks last year, like you were saying at the start. And yeah, Poggi gained bonus seconds, but it wasn't like a time gap. There wasn't like distance between the wheels where at the end he gained seconds because of the gap between wheels. It was just bonus seconds. So, Jonas not being as good as that doesn't really matter, like you say, because if he drops Poggi by 5 minutes up Col de la Loz, 6 bonus seconds in the first few stages doesn't mean anything because, they're just completely blown out of the water in comparison. So Jonas is probably at the exact GC all-rounded person who you could get, I think, like hands down.
Well, we'll move on. We could talk about this till the cows come home, whatever that means. But in terms of... we also had the opening weekend of the combination of Omloop Het Nieuwsblad and Kern Brussels Kern. And because you two are against the UAE Tour, even though it was a banging finish, we're going to keep that till later. But Omloop and Kern Brussels Kern, Visma Lease bike show once again, it seemed.
It was just last year, wasn't it, basically? It was the exact same thing. Omloop was the more entertaining of the two races. If you watch Kerner, I'll save you some time. Watch it from about 120k's to go to like 70k's to go, and then skip to 5k's to go. I'm just going to save you like an hour and a half of your life. Omloop was really interesting though, from the perspective of seeing Visma Lease bike and their basically what will be their Tour of Flanders team in a bit of a dress rehearsal, and it was so dominant. It gave me notes of Quick Step from, 10 years ago, when we'd have Gilbert's and Terpstra's and Trentin and stuff when he was there, and like the Seneschal Asgreen and stuff, where they just have so many numbers, it's just ridiculous. Like, other people may as well just rolled over and just give them the victory to them anyway. And the fact that they made a move, it came back and they still won with Tratnik. And it just showed there's such strength and depth, and nobody was able to match them. Like, simple as that. Like, no other team is near them, I think, in terms of classic strength at the moment.
I think there was more risk involved this year with Tratnik attacking, Pollitt following with. They could have probably tried to isolate it down so it was only one ride all the way to the end, but in difficult circumstances when that peloton were chasing them, they still backed Tratnik instead of trying to sort of neutralize that move and bring back Wout van Aert to win a sprint, which he did win comfortably. You know, it was more entertaining. And I think, strength and depth is really important. Jorgensen looked like he was on course to win it for a while. Then Wout van Aert was in a great position, and Tratnik just swept in at the end and took the win there. And then in Brussels-Kuurne, they just had the strongest guy in the end. They knew to sort of bet on Wout van Aert. There was less risk involved there. He was going to win that sprint to the end regardless. And I mean, it was a slog to get through, but it was definitely sort of dominant racing from Visma Lease bike. But we are missing a very, very important man called Mathieu van der Poel. Is that going to change the dynamic completely, potentially?
I mean, speaking of repeating conversations we did last year, this time last year, we were saying, are they too strong for the classic season? And then, Mathieu van der Poel happened. So is that the way you stop Visma Lease bike?
Potentially. Well, we saw
the numbers game, because Tratnik, he seems very strong, and you two have been banging on about Tratnik as well in the classics. So having him, having Van Baal, having Wout van Aert, maybe it was just 1 year they needed to just gel a bit more. But you guys were also saying last year when we were talking about this, that when we come to monuments such as Ronde van Vlaanderen or Paris-Roubaix, it is always the cream rises to the top. You don't really see riders coming with teammates all too often.
That's true, but I think in Ronde they have a better chance than Roubaix. Because in Ronde they have, I think, a stronger, hillier team to support them. Where in Roubaix, I think that could be where Albers and de Koning really sort of outplayed them. They did last year. They had a great ride last year. Philips was right up to his top level with a couple of their teammates like Dries de Bont and Gianni Vermeersch. Then I think then we could be sort of looking at Albers and de Koning really sort of fighting with Visma. But for the here and now, and with all these like Geet-Wevelgems and Idris and so forth coming up soon, they should be winning these ones comfortably. Who with? It could be any of their riders. I don't think we didn't really see much of Christophe Laporte. I think he's definitely got more to give. He's definitely he's targeting Roubaix. He said that recently as well. So it's a bit of a dream for him to win that race, and he thinks he could win that race. Tratnik looked fantastic, but could he bring it Roubaix? Jorgensen looked brilliant as well. I think he could be really influential at Idris as well as at the Ronde van Vlaanderen. Also, is Poggi going to Ronde this year?
I don't know. I don't think he is.
With Poggi out of the equation, that makes it slightly easier because they've only got one rival really to look out for.
Yeah, basically, if they can get Van der Poel isolated before the Paterberg, like Ada Quermont duo at the end, like if they could just have two riders there, it's going to make it so hard for him, especially if, like, I think Laporte was, dare I say, Laporte was just playing, like, I think he barely, like, he kept his powder really dry this weekend. Like, I didn't really see Laporte ever really making a move. Like, he followed moves and did some kind of like ghost attacks, but he looked like he was honestly just cruising. Like, he even just like easily got that Bund sprint win in Kuurne at the end. I think he's looking dangerous. And also that European champs jersey and bike, that looks so good. It's a crazy good team. It wouldn't surprise me if they won every single, like, all the semi-classics. I think Visma Lease bike could easily mop up all of those. But yeah, Ronde, I do have more confidence in Wout at Ronde now. Even if, you know, obviously there wasn't a Van der Poel here, but like we were just saying, Poggi's not there. It's like a one-on-one, basically, with Van der Poel. And with their strength, I just think that Alpecin last year made that signing of Kragh Andersen, but I think the addition of Jorgensen has been really good for Visma Lease bike this year. And I think just, Jorgensen and Tratnik and Laporte and Van Baal and Wout van Aert versus, like, Philipsen was nowhere this weekend, to be honest. Like, he was in the break in Omloop, but he got dropped. Like, he ain't making it. So it's like, what, 4 Visma Lease bike or 5 versus like Van der Poel and Kragh Andersen? Like, the numbers are in their favour already.
Al Andersen.
It's got what? Perfect monologue.
Okay, so like, for instance, in a Ronde situation, if it's brought up to be like Jorgensen, Wout, and Mathieu, or whoever, whichever Visma rider you want with Wout and Mathieu, does Wout win in that hypothetical situation?
Honestly, just what was it 2021 where they went head to head, or was that Asgreen?
2020. Yeah.
2020. The one where it's head to head between them two. There's a lot of flashbacks to that, and how Wout is known for bottling sprints at the end of one-day races. And before Wout and Aerts fans get all hot and, freaking flustered in the comment section, it's just facts, people, all right? Don't get upset. It's just the way it is. I honestly think that it depends which Wout and Aerts gets out of bed. Like, if maybe he'll beat Van der Poel in a sprint, maybe he won't. I think that their better shot would be to try and get two Visma Lease bike riders, Wout plus somebody, and then you have to launch that somebody and make Van der Poel chase, so that you nullify his legs up a Paterberg. Ideally, that's where Wout or the Aldequan, whichever one. You have to use that anticipation to make Van der Poel work. That's the only way I can see to neutralise him.
Sometimes as well, I think Van der Poel under pressure can make silly moves. Although he's great at these high pressure sort of big stage events, we have also seen Van der Poel struggle and make sort of silly moves and use his energy inefficiently. Are we going to see a desperate Van der Poel try to isolate Wout van Aert early? Or are we going to see Van der Poel try to just ride the wheels, let Visma control the race and see what happens? We could even see Payson as well. He's also going to be an important figure if he's up at that top form. He could also sort of join those three. That could make the dynamic particularly interesting, a bit like at the World Championships in Glasgow last year. It really is looking like Van der Poel has to just sort of match Visma Lease bike's energy and not sort of get too giddy and overthink the hypotheticals beforehand of what if they're in this position? What if they have all the power? Because we thought that last year, and Wout van Aert wasn't quite there on the day. Despite Nathan van Hooydonk's best chances to bring him back, there's no Nathan van Hooydonk this year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think E3 will give us a clearer idea, because E3 is a harder race. So we'll see what happens. Not harder than Rondo, but it's probably at an equal level to Omloop.
I think Alpecin should sign Tom Scoyen, speaking about the Glasgow and, Omloop.
Fantastic at the weekend as well.
Sign him up, guys. We can't talk about this too much. We have a lot more races to go to. And just to get through it, UAE Tour, Patrick, last Middle Eastern race for a while. Actually, I think it's the last one, isn't it? But what did you guys think of this?
Should we sort of step through the chronology of the race to begin with?
Oh, if we have to go on here.
Well,
if we have to.
In short, Timo Leer began the week in winning ways. Common theme here. Timo Leer won stage 1 ahead of Arda de Klein. Stage 2 was won by Brandon McNulty in a UAE Team Emirates 1-2-3 with Jay Vine in second place and Biel in third. That was that time trial with Tobias Foss in fourth, and a surprisingly good ride for the Austrian, who I didn't really know much about, Rainer Keplinger, who finished in fifth place there. The following stage, on stage 3, was won by Ben O'Connor. After him and Paris Bantra launched a fantastic move up the Jebel Jais with Jay Vine in second place. He went into the red jersey of the overall leader at that point, sporting a fantastic mustache at this point in time, I must say. It seems to be the season of the cycling mustaches and cycling mullets. Mathieu van der Poel, we await your return to road season. Timo Leer took stage 4 ahead of Arvid de Klein once again. Stage 5 was won by Olaf Koy before stage 6 was won by Timo Leer again. 3 wins for Leer this week, with Arvid de Klein in second once more. Then finally, stage 7, which was the Jebel Hafid finale, a fantastic final 10 kilometers of this stage. We saw the race leader Jay Vine get dropped. We saw the other American, Brandon McNulty, get dropped as well. UAE had a bit of a tragedy. Also, we glossed over Adam Yates, who was out of the race through concussion. And in the end, it was the young Belgian Lennart van Eetveld who went on the attack. The Cadmont Age d'Azur was trying to limit their losses and regulate the time gaps so that Ben O'Connor could win overall. However, Lennart van Eetveld did the damage and he took the overall win, along with the stage win here at the Jebel Hafid. He took the overall win by 2 seconds ahead of Ben O'Connor. Thanks to time bonuses, he gained an intermediate sprint earlier in the UAE Tour when he went in the breakaway, with Ben O'Connor in second place with the Cadmont Age d'Azur, Peo Bilbao in third at 11 seconds, Ilan van Wilder in fourth, and Attila Valter in fifth. Guys, an interesting week of racing. 2 fascinating mountain stages. I will say that. The sprint stages, they all blend into one. But no super team in the top 3. you could say, with Lotto winning, Decathlon second, and Bahrain in third. A Galactico-less race was fascinating to watch.
I think UAE's absence is the thing that surprises me most. Obviously, like you said, Yates was out with a concussion, but I am surprised, given McNulty's early season form, that he wasn't. Obviously he did a good TT, but he just wasn't there on the mountains. He was struggling a bit there, which is a bit odd. But I think Van Aert thought that's just a fantastic victory for him. Of course, he was really good in some of the Mallorca Challenge races, so great to see that he's backed that up. O'Connor I love that Jebel Jais win. His TT was decent, and yeah, he only lost by 2 seconds. Bilbao just doing Bilbao things, just consistently, just I kind of just forgot that Bilbao was in the race, and then I'm just like, oh yeah, he's just Mr. Consistent, just gets the job done. Yeah, I mean, all the sprints could honestly do with just being 100 kilometers shorter. I think then that would be really just make things a hell of a lot more interesting, because there is just so much excess nothingness that we just don't need to see. You may as well just tune in with. I always just tuned in with 20Ks to go, or 15, and then because nothing else is happening apart from Mark Stewart getting intermediate sprints, and that's it. But the sprints were interesting. They were hectic. They were really fast. It felt they gave us kind of very adrenaline kind of filled finishes, which I did like. But oh my word, I am glad that the UAE Tour's over, and I don't have to see people reverse calculating watts per kilos up Jebel, whatever the hell it is. I just hate those things.
Yeah, I mean, this is, am I right in saying Lotto's first World Tour win in years?
That's an interesting one.
I can't think of the last time they won a World Tour race. So we're going to have to look back to Maximo for...
Would it be Tim Wellens, the Renewed Tour, or whatever? Yeah.
At the Eneco Big Bang,
whatever, yeah.
Lux, whatever it's called, tour. It's impressive, and for Van Aert, it's a huge win. I do feel bad because Ben O'Connor, I think, rode a really good race. I think Decathlon rode a really good race. And they played the last stage a little bit too sort of safe. But I think Ben O'Connor is a bit sort of hard done by not winning this race overall.
Do you think Yates would have won?
Yes.
You reckon?
Yeah. 100. It's Adam Yates in the UAE Tour. He would have put a minute into
already have guaranteed Jabil finish. They should name it the Jabil Adam Yates.
Obviously, UAE didn't do brilliantly here, even with a caveat of Yates, whatever. Do you think that UAE is too reliant? Do you think that UAE is too reliant on Poggy to get results? If Poggy wasn't in this team, would this team be anywhere near as good as we think it is?
Ayuso, Almeida, come on, they have a few more cards.
Yeah, Almeida wins one stage every year.
Ouch.
Okay, come off it. Look at the past week. They got 2 wins down in the Rhone Valley. We'll get to that later.
Hopefully not.
But
we will.
And Dot Pro Merchant Mark Hirschi took wins there. They got 2 second places through Tim Wellens and Nils Pollitt at the opening weekend, and they got a 1-2-3 in a time trial at the UAE Tour, and they led most of the race. Brandon was faulty. We're back at it again. Jay Vine, I mean, he's just not quite as experienced at the World Tour level. I know.
Whoa! Be nice. The only friend this podcast has in the professional peloton is Jay Vine so far.
Okay. But he hasn't been doing the World Tour rounds for a long time. We can say that. Particularly not as a GC leader. It's only really the past year. So I think it was a bit of a risk once Adam Yates left, and the team were probably anticipating that Adam Yates was going to be their leader and main contender. They didn't really know what was happening, and he got pulled off the bike later on, so there's probably some confusion there. I think that's a harsh statement to say, this team is just Poggy. I think it's definitely more than just Poggy.
Yeah, I'm just rustling feathers.
Yeah. Yates probably would have won this race overall. Let's be real. Yeah. This was not an A-list start list, and Adam Yates is an A-list rider.
I've just been seeing a lot of yellow around the place recently, If somebody say to me, Who's winning so far this season? Is it Visma Lease Bike or is it UAE? It's Visma Lease Bike.
We'll get to that. We'll get to our weekly.
No. Let's just dig into that a little bit there, because Isaac Del Toro took a win early this year at the Tour Down Under, finished third overall in that race. They also had a number of wins earlier on from Banner McNulty, one in Valencia. I think this team is much more. It does have strength in depth. They don't quite have the World Tour level dominance of a Visma Lease bike, but they hoover up World Tour points. I mean, we've looked past Finn Fisher-Black and Adam Yates winning in the Trovo Man. UAE are good.
I mean, Visma Lease bike won 5 races in 2 days this weekend, so
that's true.
2 stages with Vingegaard, the opening ones and the overall. So I haven't seen UAE do that.
When Poggy gets added...
Scott, it's not just about the past week. Let's not get amnesia. I know they...
And Marianne Vos won the Omloop for the women's. Go Marianne Vos. Big fan.
Women. To be fair, Marianne Vos for beating Lotte Kopecky was absolute fun. That's just like a nice little side.
The goat is back.
But basically, the point is, when Poggy gets unleashed from his cryo chamber, which he's currently defrosting from to go to Strade, right?
I thought he was in UNE. Wasn't he in UAE on social media?
Why is he not racing it?
Exactly. So cryo chamber somewhere in Slovenia, Monaco, UAE.
What's the point of going to this dust bowl if you're not going to race? Right? It's just pointless, right?
There goes that. Visit UAE contract.
I don't want to go for anything. This team's going to be sick once Poggy gets unleashed. Like they're like, simmering. And Poggy's just about to put them on the boil. Like they have got this set, but I just quite like the toing and throwing between UAE and Visma. I think that it's a good little battle, and but I just want Poggy back racing. I really want Strade to come around. Like it kind of hurts me that we're not going to see loads of him this year until we get to the Grand Tours. It's like before then we have to kind of we're starved of just the occasional one day race in a Catalonia, and I'm like. Ugh. He's just an entertaining racer.
This year we have 4 guys to follow, not just 2. So that'd be quite cool. Because they have Roglic and Nathan Poel as well on top of Poggy and Jonas.
And Lazov.
Yeah, yes. Theo Gegenhardt. Carlos Rodriguez as well.
I mean, we might as well jump to the next one. And do you want to discuss the Adam Hansen thing? Apparently there was a bit of a spat on Twitter. He's the Riders Union. You know this much better than me.
He's head of the CPA, which is the Riders Union, who try to sort of support the riders and stand for the riders' welfare. I mean, this is much of nothing. Some people like to bash at him. He is a little bit sort of reluctant to reply on Twitter, and he has Twitter Blue. Sorry, X Blue, whatever the fuck it's called nowadays. So he has the legal rights to post 1 million word responses to people, and to be honest, it is much about nothing. It's people complaining about concussion protocol because Adam Yates came down in a crash and he was put back in the bike for a bit. The team did what they should have done. The team realized that he wasn't quite responding to questions as they should have, and they pulled him off the bike. I'm actually in agreement with Adam Hansen. I think that they've done what they could, and I think all parties involved have done the best thing possible. A couple of years back, that wasn't quite the same. I'm thinking of Baldet back at the 2020 Tour de France, where he was in his home region, came down to that crash, went back on the bike, and it took him a day to pull out the race when he really should not go back on that bike. But they consulted a lot of people for concussion protocol. It's a very buzzwordy thing at the moment in other sports like rugby and probably American football, I don't know. But definitely rugby, in my Anglo-European mindset. Concussions, it's a really difficult thing to assess. I think any sort of mental injury in sport is very difficult to assess. It's a high pressure situation. Remember that these guys are on the edge. They want to perform, they want to do their job. They want to get the results.
Yeah, because the tricky thing is going back to the rugby thing, because they have their gum shields have sensors in them, so they can tell when they've had a really heavy impact, so they can take somebody off for an HIA. Head injury assessment, sorry. But that's fine in a game setting where they can get taken off and somebody can be substituted in and they can be kind of safely looked after and kind of assessed. Whereas when Adam Yates, for example, you can get sensors in helmets. They're literally readily available. You crash, you have a hard impact, it sends a text to some emergency contact or whatever. Now, you could use those, but then the problem is integrating it, because then you have to say, okay, Adam Yates, we're going to have to do a head injury assessment on you by a concussion test. But it's like, but the peloton is riding away. And then it's like, well, what do you then do? How long is this assessment going to take? What if it happens at the bottom of a mountain, but, Jonas is attacking? And it's like, no, sorry. You need a head injury assessment before you can carry on riding. The idea is there, like, you can use these sensors to say you need a concussion test, but integrating it is going to be a lot harder in a bike race in comparison to an NFL, a rugby, a football match.
Exactly that. And I mean, the team did what they could have done. They put him back on the bike. He wanted to get back on the bike. And the team sort of ran through simple questions to him, and he didn't respond properly. And then that's when they took him off the bike. They realized he wasn't quite acting as he normally would. I think that's a fair way of doing it. Maybe some riders, they come off and the reaction is quicker than they're expecting, and then boom, they can retire there and then. We have also seen in recent weeks that concussion injuries can last a very long time. Heiko van der Hoorn is still out with concussion after a crash last year. This really is on a case-by-case basis. Wait, I was trying to think of a way to say that where I don't repeat the same word 3 times in the same sentence. But I guess like making that arbitrary sort of slam the head boom, the sensor sort of brings you off, but I think everyone reacts to something in a different way.
I mean, both of you, very sensible discussion there. I think Twitter should listen to your discussion, or X, whatever, who cares?
People want to always want to criticize the way that
true.
And I think having that constant accountability, scrutiny of the sport, the way that it goes, is healthy. That discourse is healthy. Whether it's constructive or not, I don't know. But it's healthy to have that accountability, and maybe it leads to more people looking inwards. And then some teams maybe will have their own domestic policies. Some teams might have sensors. It might not be a whole cycling rule, but some teams might implement that. Some teams might have different rules to others. Some team doctors may be more pragmatic than others. It really depends. Having a big blanket rule in the whole sport for concussion injuries, I think, is like, it's really difficult to monitor. I mean, in rugby and football, there's only 2 teams involved in that. Well, here there's like 20 or so in a race, and every team will act differently.
Can you imagine a mass pile-up? And it's just like, you 30 people all need a concussion test because all of your sensors have gone bluff. So you all need to stop, and the logistics of it just don't add up.
Right. To get back to racing, we're going to go with the Peter Sagan story, we could go to racing first, but I want to squeeze in this before we get to the Drome Classic. Mathieu van der Poel announced his schedule, and TBD was Liege, Bastogne, Liege, and he hasn't done it since the COVID races, or COVID era, whatever you want to call it. So, can Mathieu van der Poel win Liege, Bastogne, Liege as the world champion?
I mean, the world champion has won it in the past. Well, he won it last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Alaphilippe thought he won it in 2020 when he had that rainbow jersey on his chest, but I'm not quite so sure. He rode a good race in that COVID season, but that COVID season was also like very, very unique in itself. Liege was only a week after the World Championships, and that was just before the Cobble Classic, so it was kind of in reverse to how it is normally. So, I mean, I'm not quite so sure. I just think there are like plenty of other guys that have a decent shout. I don't quite know if he's a strong enough climber on these longer climbs that we have at Liege in comparison to the short, steep climbs that we have at the World Championships and Amstel Gold, but I'd certainly be open to the prospect of him doing it.
Yeah, I think Van der Poel, 30 seconds to 1 minute climbs. Brilliant. Perfect. Love that. Gets towards 3 minutes. Oof. I don't know, like when you get up La Redoute, like I can see it in my mind's eye. I can see Poggy going or Evenepoel going. Van der Poel's on the wheel. Everyone's losing their minds. Oh my word! Van der Poel's going to hang on the wheel and out sprint him, and then we're going to get about 800 meters from the top, and he's just going to get slowly dropped. Like, you can see it. Like, he's going to last for like 2 minutes, and then he's going to get dropped. He just is. It's pure physiology. You can't disagree with it. It's going to happen. I would love to see Van der Poel win it, because that would be, he's won 4 monuments. But he's got to win Il Lombardia, which would just be mental.
That's happening as well this year.
It's just not, because Il Lombardia would have to turn into the Gran Piemonte, the flat version of Gran Piemonte, in order for it to work. Maybe the organisers would be willing to just change the route, like the historical route, just so that Van der Poel could do it. That'll be a vibe. Please. Can we do
the flattest route possible between Como and Bergamo?
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
No one thinks he could potentially. La Redoute, do you think that's game over?
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily La Redoute. I just think it's these longer climbs. Like we saw at the Tour de France last year on stage 1 and on stage 2, he was nowhere to be seen. I know he was working more as a lead-out man in the Tour de France last year, but I think just like the longer climbs in general, not quite his forte. I'm thinking more on like Rochefoucauld. It's like 6% for 3 kilometers. I don't necessarily think that's a Van der Poel style climb. I think that's more of, we're going to see more of these climbers go out for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even like he's up against nobody. He's up against everyone. Super talent in the sport, barring Jonas.
The man who had 100% record. Yeah,
like Roglic. Wait, is Roglic? Roglic is doing Liege, yeah?
Yeah, very. I thought he was. Oh.
But he's got to face Poggi and Remco.
Yeah, I mean, that's
like,
not exactly.
Jeez, it's not going to be easy, but I am all in, hoping that he does win it.
Okay, we might as well go to the Drôme Classic, because Ewan's been waiting patiently. And Ewan, what happened in these 2 races? There was
we went down to the Rhone Valley. And we had the Faune Ardèche and the Faune Drôme Classic. In Ardèche, it was down to a little sprint at the end between Felix Gall of Decathlon Age Desert, Matthias Skjelmose, the Danish champion of Lidl Trek, Romain Grégoire, and Juan Ayuso. And Ayuso took the win for UAE Team Emirates, ahead of Grégoire of Groupama Français des Jeux, for Ayuso's first win of the year, I believe. The next day in the Drôme Classic, in the département, the county over, it was his teammate Mark Hirschi who took the win, the Swiss national champion who loves these little races. He took the win ahead of Juan Ayuso, who won the day before, with Maxime van Gils in 3rd place, and a resurgent Warren Barguil in 4th for DSM Firmenich post-NL. Well, I don't really have much more to say, but Ayuso is looking really good. His next meeting, we believe, his next rendezvous will be Strade Bianche ahead of Tirreno.
Yeah, wait, he rode that short time trial as well in Andalusia.
Yeah, and he finished 2nd.
Yeah, he should have gone.
He was winning that one, yeah. But I mean, he got no World Tour points for that, I don't think.
Well, Patrick, it's a long program already. I'll just squeeze in Tour Rwanda as well, and then you can comment on both of them. Tour Rwanda won by Joseph Blackmore of Israel Premier Tech. Okay, Joe, whatever. Joseph Joe. Come on, you. I mean,
sorry. I like it.
Oh, it likes.
Paul broke up, and I didn't. I thought you were scrambling to find his name. Understandable, because I've not really heard of him before.
He was wheeling on the final stage in the yellow jersey, which I thought was quite great in Kigali. Lopez to a 2nd place as well.
It was his 21st birthday.
What a way to celebrate!
6. And he took the stage win at Mont Kigali, and then he wheelied over the line. Honestly, well, he's actually in the Israel Premier Tech Academy, so he might be making a name for himself to be fielded at some World Tour races this year.
Now you can talk, Patrick. What do you think of all 3 races?
I was just thinking about UAE at Strade, because Poggi's going, Ayuso, Hirschi, Vellens, Domen Novak.
Oh,
he's obviously the leader of the team. I just think that's a crazy good team. And especially when you consider that Mathieu isn't going, and Wout isn't going. And yeah, I just think that UAE have got Strade pretty much just nailed down already. We may as well just hand the victory to them, because I've just don't see how anybody's going to beat that team, considering just how freaking strong it looks.
I'm gonna counterpoint that.
With who?
Is that allowed? Are you allowed to go against UAE at Pog?
No, Ineos have a good team. Pidcock, Egan-Bernal, Magnus Sheffield, and double winner in the past, Michal Kwiatkowski, are also raised a little flag for Visma Lease bike. Who knew? Attila Wout is looking really good, and he came quite close last year, alongside the new one-day racing Sepp Kuss and Ben Tullett, who I think could do really well in this kind of profile.
And Bart Lemon.
Bart Lemon got another top 10 in GC this week, by the way.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point. But still, like, Pidcock won last year because Poggy wasn't there, in my opinion. And that is coming from a Yorkshireman saying that's what. I just think that Poggy, I can't wait for Strade, which, as we all know, still isn't a monument. But I'm still looking forward to the race nonetheless.
But, I mean, Patrick, you predicted correctly that Tratnik was going to win on Loot. Who's winning Strade? Come on, give everyone. We can all put our mortgages on what you say next. If we had mortgages,
let's go with something a little bit weird. One-day Kuss wins Strade Bianche. He was actually pretty good at Cross Cahayan, so I don't think it's out of the question. But Sepp Kuss may finish on the podium at Strade. I don't even think that's too far-fetched to believe.
I agree. I wouldn't be surprised. We've had proper climbers finishing the podium in the past couple of years. I'm all aboard the Attila Valter hype train, but I think Poggy will win, but Attila Valter will finish in second place.
Valens was very good this opening weekend as well. You know, he was bridging the gap in Omloop on the Keppelmer, and then he was obviously second only to Wout van Aert and Kerner, so he's looking really good too. He's been really consistent. I think his lowest finishing in Strade is like 13th or 15th, something like that. Yeah. It's just a really strong team.
Well, I mean, talking about Strade Bianche, we might as well finish on a down note because, well, we're finishing on an up note with the Rider of the Week. But in terms of Peter Sagan, heart problems, apparently his high heart elevation and had to be taken to the hospital. And I'm not sure if he's actually undergoing surgery for it.
Well, he's undergoing a heart procedure. I'm not quite sure what that entails. Okay. Not a doctor. But this happened actually during a mountain bike race that he got flared up, and he had to be taken to hospital. His BPM was over 200 during the race, apparently. I think that's a lot. I don't really know. What's your resting heart rate supposed to be? I mean, it depends per person, but like, guys, you have the science background.
Probably like an athlete, you should probably like somewhere between 40 to 50.
Well, I think the estimate for your highest heart rate is supposed to be your 220 minus your age is like a rough.
Yeah.
And he's 30.
He's definitely not 20.
Yeah. Last time I saw 200 was like a couple of years ago. And then I literally got to the top of a climb after the effort and I just had to lie down. So, I think 200 is not comfortable.
Yeah,
but he's okay for God himself.
Yeah, well, his aim this year is to go to Paris for the Olympic Games. We'll see if that actually happens.
We'll see.
Well, yeah, but we'll see if that actually happens. He missed the last Olympics due to injury as well, but apparently he's going to be starting training in a couple weeks' time. So, yeah, it seems like they're optimistic he'll come back. Just not quite so sure if that's the best thing. We've seen cardiac problems affect cyclists as well in the past, and we'll see if he comes back. I don't know. I think cycling's a bit different. In football, riders have cardiac problems and seem to come back fine, but in cycling, it might be a little bit different.
True. I think he needs a perfect place for him to recuperate and regain his strength would be at the Peter Sagan Hotel. He should really book himself into his own hotel. Because it's got a gym and it's got a pool, and I think it might have a spa as well. And I think
it does, yes. And if he stays in the Paris-Roubaix room, he can have a rooftop terrace, if I recall. And he can also have a wall with loads of pictures of himself to rest his ego and lower that heart rate down a little bit if he reminds himself of the good old days.
All seriousness, is it okay?
I mean, that was you turned a negative story into a bit of positive. Coming to Rider of the Week, and exciting. Well, actually, no. Before we go into Rider of the Week, we introduced that segment last week. Teams with the most wins, and I don't know if you guys can guess who is the team with the most wins in total, but I was a bit surprised.
Is it still Lidl Trek?
No, it's not. We have a new leader.
Is it not, Israel Permitech?
Sadal Quickstep.
I mean, Merlier won 3 times this week. That feels normal, Scott. That feels like
yeah, it does.
Fact. We've like reset. You know, they usually have one of the most wins. It's either them, Visma, or UAE.
Tied with UAE though, crucially, and Israel, because of Joe Blackmore, moved up into second place with 9 wins. Which
Where's Visma? Is Visma up there?
Visma is in 5th place, moving down 4 places. So
washed.
But nevertheless, going to Rider of the Week, and who wants to start? I haven't even thought about this, to be honest.
I'll go first. My Rider of the Week is Tim Merlier for winning 3 stages of the UAE Tour. I honestly, his lead out wasn't brilliant, but his ability to just surf the wheels, and he was just like, when he launched, it made everyone else look really like second rate. And I just think that Merlier really showed that he is, at the moment, you could argue the fastest sprinter in the world, and probably deserving of getting a Grand Tour start finally. So, well done, Tim Merlier, for winning 3 of the 4 UAE Tour sprints.
Well, I mean, yin and yang, I want to pick Arvid de Klein, who finished in second place behind him in all 3. But I'm going to pick Lennart van Eetveld, who took the overall win at UAE. We weren't expecting him to win overall, maybe a decent top 5, but winning overall with a solid ride at Chapelle Hafid, and also having the tactical prowess to go into the breakaway to take bonus seconds in a race that he knew was going to be closely fought out, was tactical genius, I would say. Sorry, Ben O'Connor. I know I backed you for the podium in the past for this race, but Lennart van Eetveld gets my price.
Okay, I mean, the obvious choice is Jonas Vingegaard, but I'm not going to give him that because we didn't see the final stage properly. I'm going to pick a rider. Yeah, I know.
Did he actually even win?
He just came up first.
Yeah,
first one out of the buses.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for, surprisingly, one that I thought one of you two would have gone for, and I'm going to pick Movistar's Loscano for finishing on the podium today in Köln-Brussels-Köln. I thought that was quite a good ride by him.
Well, we weren't surprised by that ride because we said he could podium a big race this year, and it's happened.
That's so true.
I mean, Jan Tratnik. None of you picked Jan Tratnik either.
Yeah, that's because
he tried last week.
Okay.
He just pinged off in the final 2K. It wasn't that.
Anyone could do that.
Anyone could have done that. You know,
it's 2K effort.
Silver platter for him, basically. He got to sit in the peloton. I would have loved to have picked Piffy if he managed to make that kind of move stick, but it was just like one climb too many. But
I want to change it now to Marianne Vos, but that feels cruel on Loscano.
It's too late. I'll win again.
Locked in. Ernst and Young have been calculating. Our accountants have said you cannot change. It's been sent off. It's in the vault.
Oh, well. Marianne Vos, I wanted you, but I should have thought about it for 2 seconds longer. Anyways, that's basically it for our 57th episode. Can you believe it? And if you haven't already, make sure to hit the like button. Comment down below what you thought of this week's racing as well. And if you haven't already, subscribe here on the channel and check us out on Spotify and the various Twitter accounts down below. But with that, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in the next one when we're dissecting Strade Bianche.
It's not a monument.
All right, that was good.
Drop that in.
Yeah. All right, see you guys at some point, I guess.
See you after the Strade.
Yeah.
The first monument of the year. Oh
my god.